He's gonna take the field. Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Appreciate you tuning in on this wonderful Saturday night, shortly after the O'Reilly Auto Parts race where my guy won. Wasn't sure he was going to be able to do it. He definitely did not seem to have the fastest car, at least for the first 3 quarters of that race. But he ended up pulling the win off. He is kind of the king of Las Vegas at this point. But after watching practice, the Toyotas definitely have something for Kyle Larson this weekend. Boy, the Toyotas look really, really good. That's all. Across the board, every Toyota was extremely fast in practice. Followed up by the Hendrick and Chevy guys, and I'm not real sure what to expect with the Fords. They either missed something or something wasn't quite right. Not real sure what's going on there, but we'll dig into that and look at practice speeds and all of the pertinent information coming up shortly. But let's reverse a little bit and go back a week and see where Ryan Blaney, the King of Phoenix, got his second victory in a row. Second victory at Phoenix in, 4 months? So good for Ryan Blaney. Good for the mustache lovers out there. I'll tell you what, he has really got a mustache going on. That is something else. But either way, the 12 car won 312 laps at Phoenix. But let's look at the optimal lineups. Speaking of optimal lineups, I did get a message shortly after the race at Phoenix that one of the viewers ended up tying in the Chrome Horn for first place. So I can't remember their name. I meant to write it down, and for some reason I can't get to it while I'm in the middle of a live stream. So I would shout you out by name, but I can't remember who sent the message. If they happen to join and let me know they sent me the message, great. We'll shout you out. But either way, we had a winner last week who tied in the Chrome Horn. He tied with like 12 other people, but hey, either way, if you can tie for first place, regardless of how many people it is, you will easily make your money back and then some. That's just the way it goes. All right, the optimal lineups from Phoenix. I ended up doing decent last week. The only my big saving grace was I ended up betting the top Ford, Chevy, and Toyota in a parlay, and had Larson, Blaney, and Bell. Because they were all kind of favored, it didn't pay out all that much, but it did pay out pretty well. I think my bet was like $5 and I won like $200. So I should put more money into it. But either way, it well more than covered whatever small loss I had with Draftkings Fantasy, and Draftkings covered it on the betting side. So either way, it's going to be really hard to figure out who might be the fastest Toyota this week because they are all blazing fast. But the optimal lineups from last week at Phoenix, Christopher Bell led a ton of laps. And I think if he had 3 more laps in that race, if it had been the 3:15 instead of the 3:12, I think he would have probably beat Ryan Blaney as he was coming on at the very end, and probably would have overtaken Blaney for that first spot. But either way, Ryan Blaney holds off in first. He also ended up in the optimal lineup. 2 drivers, both over $10,000, as to be expected. Something similar will probably happen again this week. But the other 4 drivers were all value. Anything under $7,500 I consider to be value picks. Bubba Wallace at 7,200, Ty Gibbs at 6,400. And I have to give a shout out to Family Man. He early in the week when the prices came out, he goes, Ty Gibbs is way too low. I've got to play a ton of him. And then he goes out and qualifies okay. And it was like, he was quick in practice, but can he actually hold on? Well, sure enough, Ty Gibbs seems to actually maybe he's turning the corner. Definitely somebody we need to start paying attention to again, I think, especially for his price range, because he's actually a little expensive again this week, especially with the speeds the Toyotas have brought. But either way, good call out for that. I just didn't play enough of it. I didn't believe it. I was like, no, this kid hasn't quite earned that respect. But I mean, he's done really, really well so far this year. Maybe it's somebody we need to continue to remember that he might be a player. I mean, at this point, all the Gibbs drivers are definitely in the mix. But I mean, he started 14th, finished 4th, led 12 laps, 57.05 points at 6,400. That's definitely really good in my book. Eric Jones starting 32nd, Brad Kozlowski starting 37th. Those were, I mean, they weren't easy picks, but they were probably going to end up doing fairly well. So the big surprise was Ty Gibbs. Michael McDowell starting in 16th, finishing in 9th, just missing the optimal lineup. Shane Van Gisbergen. How many times can Shane Van Gisbergen spin in a race and still finish in or close to the top 10? He's really starting to show that he has potentially maybe turned the corner on these ovals. I'm not saying he's the caliber of a Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Larson, any of those, but for being a road course only guy, he's starting to turn some heads and he's starting to get noticed. I mean, he's 5th in points, I think, currently, which after 4 races, who thought Shane Van Gisbergen would still be top 10 or even, I think, maybe 6th or 5th in the point standing currently and only have had one road course. That's kind of the other big surprise so far this year. The optimal lineup challenge after 4 races, Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, 23-11, holding the top spots with 3 each. Ty Gibbs with 2 optimal lineups, and then a whole host of drivers with 1. So, yeah, I mean, 3 Toyotas, 2 23-11, and the namesake Gibbs holding it at the top. All right, that's enough for Phoenix. Let's get to Las Vegas. This is Mark Fish. What's up, buddy? Let's go. Can your boy Kyle Busch actually turn the corner this week? He actually looked pretty good in practice. Not so much in qualifying, but he did have some speed. He is a Las Vegas boy. There are 3 drivers from Las Vegas in the race for tomorrow. Riley Herbst, Busch, and yes, I know he's your pick. That's why I called that out. And Noah Gragson, all from Las Vegas. Either way, Las Vegas is an intermediate D-shaped oval, 1.5 miles in length. It's progressive in the corners from 18 to 20 degrees. You can run top, middle, bottom. You can run so many different lines of this track. It's awesome, which provides and makes for really, really good competitive racing. I'm really excited. I did remember to put stages into this one. We have the first stage is 80 laps. Then the next stage is 85 laps, which will take us to 165. And then they'll race 102 to the end for 267 total laps. Dominator points of 100 and almost 87, 186.90. That's coming from laps led of 66.75 and fast laps of 120.15. Tire wear will be an absolute must this week. Save the tires, burn up the tires, don't put enough pressure on the tires, you'll blow a tire. This track seems to be really tough. Family Man says Hamlin is going to dominate this race. I have to think that my pick's going to be Bell for the Dominator, but Hamlin would be a close second on that pick. I mean, honestly, it's whoever can get the jump at the start and go lead the first probably 35, 40 laps because they're going to split the first stage in half. So we're going to get probably whoever gets the lead, the start's probably going to at least be able to hold it for till the first caution, or I mean, the first either caution or green flag pit stop, and then from there it could get a little jumbled. But I think the longest we're going to probably see on a tire run is probably going to be 40 laps. Anything more than that, I mean, they were cording the tires at 30 laps in practice. Some of the guys who kind of took care of their tires and the tire pressures were right. They were getting, I think the most laps in practice consecutively were 37. And they had some cording on the right rear tire. So it's going to be interesting. Tires are going to be premium. Not as much as they will be next week, but they will definitely be a premium for tomorrow's race. Other tracks that we could compare to: Texas, Kansas, Charlotte, Miami, pretty much any of the mile and a halfs we can compare to. They're all very, very fast, multiple grooves, huge tire wear issues. So you can go back and look at any of those tracks and see who runs well at these tracks. And that's typically going to give you an indication of who might run well at these, along with practice speeds, which we'll get to in just a few minutes. But let's look at the optimal lineups from Las Vegas. Before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. Got some really good momentum started so far for this year, and would love to continue to gain some more subscribers, followers, people coming in, chatting, and stuff like that. Always makes it a much more enjoyable stream. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. But the optimal lineups from Vegas from the last 4 races, the last 2 years, last fall. So again, when we're looking at this, one of the things we need to pay attention to is kind of where is the cutoff threshold for the non-valued drivers and how many points they're getting to make the optimal, and then what is below that and how low does that go. So, I mean, we had Noah Gragson in the fall race get 45.9 points and ended up in the optimal. And the reason why a $5,900 driver with only 45.9 points gets in the optimal is because, I mean, you spent $11,500 and $9,700 with the 2 expensive guys. So you have to have the value to hit under that $50,000 salary cap. And that's going to kind of reign true throughout. We have a $6,700 Josh Berry in the spring from last year who ended up getting the win. That was a real surprising win last year. But we had no real dominators in the spring race last year. They had just changed the tire package a little bit, and it was just an unusual race. I mean, all 6 of the drivers that made optimals all led laps. I think the most was Larson at 61, who ended up finishing in 9th. But pretty much everybody finished in the top 10 that ended up making the optimal, which is a little bit odd. As you can see, the fall race had 2 drivers outside the top 10 and 1 in 10th. And then the fall race from 2024. So the cutoff line was 60, 63. We have a 54 because Christopher Bell led 155 of the 267 laps, and Daniel Suarez led 57. Suarez is actually pretty good here. Now, remember, he's with a new team this year, so hard to say what that's going to bring, but usually a driver who does pretty well, regardless, as long as the team has got speed, and Spire does, they typically will end up being okay. But Daniel Suarez led 12 laps in the spring of 2025, and the fall of 2024, he led 57. So Daniel Suarez may be somebody not to completely rest on, but we'll look at his practice speeds and things of that when we get to him. But somewhere in the 54 point range and then 62 range down here, I'm going to call it about 60 points you're going to need. If you are anything above $8,000 or more, you're going to need to target for about a 60-point day. Would be a safe spot to either make the optimal or be right there at the optimal line. So I always like to kind of keep that in mind when we go and start looking at the calculator. But I mean, even in the spring 2024, where Kyle Larson had led 181 laps, $11,000, we still needed the Daniel Hemrick at less than 40 points to make this optimal lineup end up working, even though we did have $1,700 left over. And sometimes that's just the way it works. It's just the way the builds end up working out. But, Noah Gregson at 62.9, that's the second time we've seen him in the optimal lineup. So there are a group of guys that end up running Vegas, Kansas, Charlotte really, really well. And Bell, Larson, Byron, Hamlin are all in those categories. All right. So after we look at the optimal lineups, I always like to narrow down, okay, who are going to be potentially the top 15 point getters and where do they start the race at? Because that will begin to draw the line of, is this a Dominator heavy race? Is this a Dominator / place differential? Is this a mixed bag where it's one or two Dominators, one or two guys that'll start, in the top 15, stay in the top 15, and then two drivers that'll be big point or place differentials? Or is this more heavy Dominator with 4 or 5 drivers that are place differential? This ends up being much more on the end of finding two Dominators or close to Dominators, start up front, stay up front, lead a ton of laps, have a ton of fast laps, and then it's mostly after that place differential. So if we go back and look, we had one Dominator, 3 place differential, one Dominator, 4 place differential, one Dominator, 4 place differential, no Dominator, and only 2 place differential. So we had one that was a mixed bag. The other ones were 1 to 2 / Dominators and 3 to 4 place differentials. And that's typically how the mile and a halves work. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're building your lineups. You don't want to build all up front. You don't want to build all in the rear. It's kind of a mixed bag. And you just want to, when you start building your lineups, you want to go, okay, for this particular lineup, I'm going to have Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson are my 2 Dominators. And, they're going to split laps led. They're going to split fast laps. And then you'll have some mixed bags in there too. And then you kind of build from there. And that's kind of how these mile and a half builds end up happening. So where do the points typically come from in regards to starting positions? Well, 2.4 of the top 15 come from starting in the top 5. Another 3.2 from 6th to 10th. So it's almost 6 drivers start in the top 10, make the top 15 in points. 11 through 20 is 3.4, 21 to 30 is 3, 31st or worse is 3. So it's a fairly even balance, with the majority still coming from starting in the top 10. Jim says, you think Larson can win again tomorrow? Oh, absolutely. He is the most dominant driver here over the last 5-6 races, or at least being the best average finish. And he is coming up. He's the most consistent driver, so he's the first driver we will end up diving into. So let's finish with this real quick, and then we'll get into that. But so this kind of gives us an indication of where we need to look at starting positions. And it's kind of an even balance across. It's not super heavy front end loaded. It's not super heavy place differential loaded. It's just kind of a mixed bag. So, it's kind of anybody's game at this point. And, at that point, we just need to figure out, okay, who's good at these mile and a halves, who had a good practice, and who may have just slightly missed in practice to give us those place differentials. Then we're looking at who was really good in practice, who is starting up front, and who could potentially dominate. Well, both the 2 guys starting on the front row easily could dominate. In fact, pretty much the top 5, any of those top 5 drivers can and have dominated a mile and a half tracks. So it's going to be a little bit of a tough call when we look at who may or who may not be able to dominate this race. But the points total is about 32.9. So to get into the top 15, we're looking at about a 32. And that's kind of my cutoff of like, okay, anything in the top 15 those are the drivers I would want to pay the most attention to. And that would be my core group of drivers of when I'm building my builds. Then I have a sub-core, which is probably another 7 to 8 drivers that I'll fill in depending on how much salary is left after I've finished building, and I've got one spot left, and I've got $6,000. Then I've got this group of drivers, and then at that point, I've narrowed that down. Those, that $6,000 and less. There's probably 10 drivers in that group, and I've already narrowed it down to only about 4 drivers that I'd be interested in taking. And then every once in a while, you get stuck, and you have $5,200 left, and you have to make a decision. Do I want to go after those 5 and just hope a Riley Herbst, Cole Custer, and Cody Ware, maybe there's an attrition race and they end up getting some pretty hefty points? That's all of what goes into the build. So, all right, let's get into the driver breakdown. Kyle Larson, $11,000, most expensive driver on the board. And as you can see, we are looking at the last 5 races from Las Vegas when we're looking at this line here of what their averages are. And he qualified in the 5th position, so starting up towards the front. His practice speeds, he was 8th in single lap. He did 25 total laps of practice, and he was 24th in a 10-lap consecutive run. Not all drivers did a full 10 consecutive lap run. Some did as much as 20, 25, 30 lap runs. But Kyle Larson did do a 10-lap consecutive run. I don't know how many he ended up getting to, but he was 24th, which means he kind of fell off a little bit as the practice laps moved on and the tires wore out. But his stats for the last 5 races at Las Vegas: 2 wins in the last 5 races, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, an 84.4 Draftkings average. Remember, 60 is where we want to be. He's averaging 84.4 points to be in the optimal. His average finish is 4.8, and he has a 6th place average running position. He finished 2nd in this race in the fall race from last year. Denny Hamlin ended up winning that. He has 19 total starts, 3 wins. Almost half of his races, he finishes in the top 5. 14 of 19, he finishes in the top 10. 17 of 19, he finishes top 20 for a 9th place average finish over the 19 total starts at Las Vegas. Kyle Larson is extremely good at Vegas. Bailey Man says, I'm fading Larson tomorrow. Just a touch. Okay. I'm going to probably be pretty balanced with the top 5 starters because they all are extremely good at these 1.5-mile type tracks. All right, so our practice speeds. So when we're looking at this, remember Kyle Larson was 8th in single lap, 24th in 10 lap. Well, 10 lap line is about here. And as you can see, Kyle Larson's okay. Denny Hamlin is the green bar going through here. The average is the white bar. So all 3 of these drivers that we're comparing to. So Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell were fastest in single lap and fastest in 10 lap consecutive average. Kyle Larson is the yellow, fired off a little slow, but ended up being faster in the long run than Bell and Hamlin. But because we're only looking at that 24th spot being a 10 lap consecutive run, which is typically the first 10 laps or so, that's where he fell. But then he is faster than the 2 Toyotas in the long run. Can he make a pass on them? It's going to be hard to say. The aero package is going to kind of come back to haunt us a little bit at these 1.5 miles. It always has, always will. And there's just no way of getting around it. Even in the last generation car, the aero made it pretty tough to pass at 1.5 miles. Andrew, I was going to fade him until I found out that they aren't running the horsepower package. No, it's the same package as they ran last year. for all 1.5 miles. Anything shorter than 1.5 miles, they're running the 750. But honestly, I don't think they need the extra horsepower. I mean, the tires are gone after 30, 35 laps at Vegas. It's in the middle of the desert. The pavement has been sandblasted for years. It's very abrasive. It's very rough. It eats up tires. Just the way the Goodyear compound works, it's going to end up, tires will make a big difference. They don't need any extra horsepower to burn the tires off. Where at the short tracks, that was the problem, is the tires were holding up so well and the horsepower was so low that it was just follow the leader. So either way, that's the practice speeds. Kyle Larson looks actually better in the long run than Hamlin and Bell. Hamlin and Bell looked very good on the short run. Get out front, stay out front, aero block. You're going to be able to hold off a Larson for at least a little while. All right. Now we look at the calculator. So Kyle Larson, once again, $11,000 starting in fifth. His average finish is 4.3. So if we look at the same track, which is the one we just looked at, so the last 5 races here at Las Vegas, he has the best finish of first, worst finish of 11th. He has an average fast lap of 39.8 and average laps led of 101. And this, I need to fix this. This is not the last 5 trend. This is the last 10 races at 1.5 mile tracks. So this includes Charlotte, Kansas, Miami, all the 1.5 miles, including Las Vegas. And those 10 races, he has the best of second and worst of 6 in those 5 races. Average fast laps of 20.8, average laps led 26.0. Extremely consistent in the last 10 races at 1.5 mile type tracks. All right, so what does that equate to? Start in 5th, finish 4th, fast laps of 20. If he can go out and lead 60 laps, he's at 65 points. And that's finishing in 4th. That's letting Hamlin or Bell or whatever win the race. As long as he can finish top 5, as long as he leads 60 laps, he's going to get to the 65-point threshold, which is going to be enough. Now, it is potential that you've got 3 or 4 drivers that all finish in the 60-point range, and then it's just going to be, who do you have with them? You know, who do you have the other 4 drivers? So you could have a Larson and like I said, a Hamlin or a Bell. They both score well over 60 points, but 2 other drivers could also do the same thing. It just, that becomes just a real guessing game on how the build ended up working out. But either way, Larson doesn't even have to finish in first. As long as he leads the 60 laps, has 20 fast laps, he's still going to get to the threshold of that 60 points. Now, what happens if he does better? He goes to 73 if he gets first. If he does worse and falls to 10th, that's 53. That's not an awful day, but that's probably not going to be enough for optimal for his price range. So that's what you have to look at, is will Kyle Larson continue to be consistent and finish in the top 5s? Or do you think the Toyotas overtake him, or he has an issue on pit road or whatever? And Larson has had the tendency to do that from time to time. So it's just, at this point, you kind of have to go with your gut. His practice speeds are perfectly fine. His averages are perfectly fine. It's, do you put him in a lineup or you not? If you don't, who do you put in his place? Well, Christopher Bell would be a really good potential person to put in that lineup also. And you could run 2 of these very expensive drivers. What's up, Daniel? Glad to see you joining tonight. How's the nursery going? How the one baby going, and the other baby's still working on it, I hope, because it's not time yet. But either way, good to see you tonight. But Christopher Bell, starting from the pole, if we look at his last 5 races at Vegas, no wins, but 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 52-point Draftkings average, an average finish of 10.4, average running position of 10.5. He finished 3rd in the fall race last year. He has 12 total starts here at Las Vegas, 4 top 5s, 6 top 10, 7 top 20s, a 15.8 average finish. Solid driver. Look at his practice speeds. This is Hamlin, Bell, and Gibbs. Of course, Bell is the blue colored line. Hamlin is the green. Ty Gibbs is the yellow. But I said earlier, Ty Gibbs looked really good in practice today. The Toyotas 2311 and Gibbs looked really good. And don't count out Legacy. Their practice speeds looked very, very similar. So the Toyotas across, baby boy will be here a week after Easter. Daughter is doing great. Wonderful. Glad things are doing well at your house. All right. So Christopher Bell's speeds look good. He's led tons of laps here before. He has an average of 43.2 laps led over the last 5 races at Las Vegas. Has an average fast lap of 26.8. If we look at the last 10.5-mile style tracks, he averages 37 fast laps and 43 average laps led. He's starting from the pole. My guess is he gets out in front of Denny Hamlin to start and probably leads till the first pit stop. Because if they go and have a wreck on lap 5, nobody's going to come and change tires that soon, especially starting up front. Unless you happen to be the caution, then you definitely get it. But if Christopher Bell, I think, can get the jump, go lead the first half of the first stage. Then from that point on, it's what did you do on pit road? As long as you didn't have any problems, did your pit crew do a good job? All those types of things. But they're going to split stage 1. So what does Christopher Bell need to get to the 60 point? Well, he's starting in from the pole. If we just think he's going to go lead maybe that first 40 lap stint, and have 25 fast laps, but then Denny Hamlin or somebody takes over, and at that point, Christopher Bell just kind of gets marred back in traffic, and he finishes in third. Well, if he finishes in third, it's 60.25 points. It's above the 60-point optimal threshold that potentially could put him in there. That's enough points to get him in there. It depends on what everybody else does. So Bell will have done his job at that point by scoring a top 3, leading 40 laps, and having 25 fast laps. So that's kind of what it looks like. Anything worse than third or not leading enough laps would probably put him under the optimal line. I don't have any problem starting a Christopher Bell in the spot. In fact, I don't really have a problem with pretty much starting anybody in the top 5 at this point. And that's going to make this extremely difficult to build the optimal lineup and pinpointing which one of the top 5 you take. Family Man, yes, I helped someone win the Chrome Horn last week. I'd like to hear from the mystery subscriber who they were, and nice blank. Yeah, I think they tied with like 15 other people, but either way, a tie in the Chrome Horn first place. I mean, I think Chrome Horn paid $10,000, so they probably won almost $1,000. So either way, that's great. I'm glad one of our subscribers and followers and whatever ended up taking down the Chrome Horn with some other people. That's okay. You still took it down. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. We always love to help out the algorithm and get some more people in here chatting away and winning money. We love to hear when people win money. But yeah, I mean, Christopher Bell, absolutely, so we've got these top 5 drivers who all could easily make the optimal lineup. So what do you do? I think you run 2 of those drivers, and then you build up below it. And you just find the best opportunities below it that could help you, end up finishing in the money. Pulling off the optimal is going to be very, very tough. Because like I said, there are easily 5 drivers that could easily be dominators for this race. But what I'm kind of showing is what does Christopher Bell normally do. And as long as you think he's going to go lead 40 laps, have 25 fast laps, finish in the top 3, he's going to have enough there. Anything worse than this, if he leads more laps, he could probably go to 4th or 5th. But I have no problem. So I mean, I always bring up what do I think my percentage is going to be for the amount I run them. I think all of these top 5 drivers, I'm probably going to be somewhere in the 30-35% range. I don't think I'm going to be at 45-50% on any one particular driver. I'm probably just going to spread the wealth out and see if I can get lucky with some of the cheaper stuff. Nice, Jum. Won $1,000 today. Heck yeah. You put in 100. How many lineups did you run? Was that like the Chrome Horn and the $1 20 max, or did you like just spend $100 on one entry? But either way, that's phenomenal win. I ended up I had 170 in and 210, so I was up $40 for the day. Either way, but that's awesome, Jim. Good win. But Denny Hamlin, let's get through this. Denny Hamlin, 10,500, starting in second. His practice speeds were second and first. He is one of the guys that are our standard bearer for our practice chart. In the last 5 races here, he has 1 win, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 43.8 Draftkings average, 10.4 average finish, 28 total starts, 2 wins. And his practice speeds, we just looked at it a second ago with Christopher Bell and Ty Gibbs. And all the Toyotas look like this, though. That's the crazy part, is all the Toyotas look like this. Denny Hamlin could easily go and lead a bunch of laps tomorrow, or he could follow Christopher Bell for most of it. It's so hard to tell who's going to actually pull this lead. But I think Bell gets the jump at the beginning, and then Denny Hamlin might get it after that. Christopher Bell might continue to have it. But Denny Hamlin, let's say he starts in second, finishes in second, but leads 25 laps and has 15 fast laps. That's only 55 points. That's probably not going to be enough. If he can lead 40 laps and 20 fast laps, he's at 61, start in second, finish in second. Finish in first at 65 points. And at this point, anything more in the lap led category is just going to put a bump into here. Because, when we looked back at the optimal lineups, I mean, we had 94, 70 and a half, 112, 110, 76, 75. So, just getting to that 65 point mark, or that 60 point mark, it's kind of like, this is what he needs to do to get there. Anything more is just extra bonus. So that's why I kind of like to find, okay, what do you need to do to get to this point? And if we think Christopher Bell is going to win, that's going to put Denny in second. That's still 61 points. That puts him there. The Hamlin line is so flat. Yep. You put in the 88 piston 10 entries. The 88 piston 10 entry. I don't know what the 88 10 entry is. Is that $88 per entry? Because that would be $880, not $100. Either way, even if that's the case, you still won $200 on the deal. 88,000. Yeah, what was the entry fee? Is it $5 per and you put 20 entries in? I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. Either way, doesn't matter. You still won $1,000. That's a phenomenal Saturday. If I could do that every Saturday, I would retire. Or come close to it. William Byron next in line here, $5, so you did 20. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you remember how many DraftKings points you had? Because I'm looking at the optimal, and the chrome horn was 35 point or 315 or almost 316, 315.95. I still happen to have that pulled up, so I was wondering if it changed much in that lineup, if it was as high or could have been a little lower. And I don't know if the 315.95 was optimal or not. I haven't done the full math on it yet. All right, so William Byron starting in 9th. Practice was 7th and 6th. Not bad. In the last 5 races, no wins, but 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, a 12.2 average finish. He did finish 36th in this race last year after Ty Gibbs decided to pretty much stop on the track before he went to pit road and destroyed Willie B's chance. I mean, Willie B was out there. He was having a really good race until that happened. 16 total starts, 1 win, 4 top 5s. All right, let's look at his practice speeds because he was 7th at 6 and 10 lap. And once again, Hamlin and Bell are the green and blue. White is the average. William Byron is the yellow. And pretty much just put a blanket over them because they all have very, very identical practice speeds. And the fall off is pretty decent here. It's pretty pronounced. Most of these guys are starting right at a 29.5. And by lap 20, they're at least 1 second fall off. And then it just continues to escalate from there. Like I said, after 30, 35 laps, they're going to be screaming for new tires. So you got to 305. Okay. What would that have won you in the chrome horn? 305 would have put you 6th. And 6th place won $250 on a $4 entry in the chrome horn. So that's a phenomenal day. Really, really good job. Hopefully you can do that again tomorrow. If that's the case, you can take my job doing this every week. Either way, congrats. Like I said, William Byron starting 10th, starting in 9th. At least there's not a whole lot of place differential here, but there is some. Starting in 9th, finishing 7th. The thing that I've got right now with Willie B is so far this year, he has not shown great raw speed. And my only question mark currently is, in practice, the new Chevy body didn't seem to be that big of a difference, good or bad, for the field. The Toyotas looked to be extremely fast. The Chevys seem to be kind of where they were last year. For some reason, the Fords are out to lunch. We haven't gotten to a Ford yet. Blaney's coming up next. But that's my only question about the Chevys will the body make any difference when it comes to maybe being able to pass easier or aero block or not aero block and those types of things? Because you really couldn't tell on a mile track at Phoenix last week, where this mile and a half, I mean, they're running they're close to 200 going into turn 3. And then of course they back down to almost 160 through the corner and then back up to about 190 going into turn 2 or turn 1. So I don't know what the Chevy aero package is going to end up doing with the car. And in practice, they're not practicing close enough to really get a fully understanding. And they're not out there actively trying to pass somebody during practice. It's too risky. So that's going to be my big interesting thought for tomorrow that I'm going to be watching for is, what is the aero package doing for the Chevys, and good or bad? And that'll answer a lot of questions. All the tires are all the same. The chassis are all the same. It's just the exterior body is different, and I'm interested to see what that does. Might make them worse, might make them better. I don't know yet. Nobody really knows. I mean, I'm sure the engineers who have huge computers and simulations and stuff like that probably have a good idea, but I don't have all that. So if he starts in ninth, finishes in seventh, let's say he goes and is able to lead 30 laps and have 15 fast laps, it's still not going to be enough. It's 53.25 points. So Willie B is going to have to get to fifth. Nope. Third. Yeah, so ninth to third, 30 laps led, 15 fast laps would put him in the ballpark. So far out of all the drivers that we've talked about, Willie B would be the one that I have a slight concern in. Hamlin, Bell, Larson, I think are all in perfect shape. Yeah, Byron just hasn't been very good lately, but he's more than capable. Now, they also had another problem. Their car chief and one of their pit crew got ejected because they failed inspection twice. So that may be another factor to remember when we're putting lineups together. I'm not saying it's still not possible. It is possible. I think there are a few things going against Willie B this week, and starting at ninth and having to get to third when we are already considering that potentially Bell, Hamlin, and maybe even Larson take up the top three spots. This is one that I'm probably going to, instead of running 30-35%, I'm probably going to be closer to that 10 to 15% range. It's not an all-out fade, but it is a fade. Ryan Blaney, $9,700, starting in sixth. And boy, oh boy, practice did not go well for the Fords. They ended up qualifying decent. Now, I know why Joey Logano looked so bad in practice, because he waited till like lap 15. So he already went out with a track that already was rubbered in, and that's just slower. Is it more consistent and probably what we're going to see in the race? Yeah, but the indicators, it's very hard to get a read when that happens. But we'll get to Joey in a minute. But Ryan Blaney, $9,700. I mean, momentum is on his side. He did win last week, but his practice speeds were about god awful, and he way overqualified compared to those practice speeds. And honestly, Las Vegas, he is not very lucky at Las Vegas. Let's put it that way. He has one top 5, 2 top 10s in the last 5 races. And he finished 38th in the fall race here last year with an average finish of 22.8. And that's what I'm saying for practice speeds. One lap, he got better than average. Beyond that, he was worse than the average. Well, there's 36 cars starting the race, so he was worse than 16th for the entire practice run, and he's starting in 6th. I'm probably going to fade off of Ryan Blaney starting in 6th. Probably going to run him about what I do with Byron. It's going to be in that 10 to 15% range. And honestly, what it probably is going to end up looking like, it'll be more of just a Ford lineup. And if for some reason the Fords were faking everybody out in practice and they blow everybody away in the race, I'll just cover all the bases with a Ford lineup. And that's probably not safe. I'm probably not going to run that in any of the expensive tournaments. It'll be just a one-off. But honestly, I don't like the practice speeds. I don't like where he qualified. I don't like his average finishes. Nothing is shining bright over here other than he won last week. So the momentum thing. But I mean, even starting in 6, if he goes and finishes in 6, and let's say he does, now the Penske's and the Fords always have a tendency to run longer than everyone else. So maybe he gets a chance to lead some laps if we go green for the entire 80 lap start. And he gets to lead some laps there. But even finishing in 6th, that's only 47.5 points. That's not going to get you in the optimal. It's probably not even going to be in the top 10. So I don't like the starting spot compared to all the other matrix that are involved with Ryan Blaney. Tyler Reddick, $9,500, starting in 7th. Reddick has started off hot this year. He didn't win last week, but he still finished top 10, still holding on to a points lead. And, all indications are, number one, he can go for wins and not have to worry about points all that much. He can go off strategy if he needs to. All he needs to continue to do is finish in the top 10, top 15. If he gets the opportunity to win, he'll go for it. He can take different opportunities as they present themselves, where, some of these other guys that are potentially sitting in 20th place in points are going to need to do maybe some off strategy stuff. We're not quite at getting to a point to where people need to panic. Briscoe needs to end up having a really good race. There is no doubt about that. But anyway, Tyler Reddick started in 7th. Practice was 10th and 7th. He has an average finish here of 14.8 over the last 5 races. 12 total starts here with a 15.5 average finish. Reddick is perfectly fine here. He doesn't have Bell, Hamlin, Larson type of speed, but he has shown that he can easily run in the top 10 most of the race. And practice speeds, throw a blanket over it. Very, very consistent, right along with the rest of the Toyotas. Now, at about lap 20, he falls off. And I don't know what may have been the cause, if he maybe had a tire going down or whatnot, but he definitely got dramatically slower by lap 20. So that may be a slight concern. The first 20 laps, he seems to be perfectly fine. The question is, starting in 7th, do you think his crew chief and the momentum give him an opportunity to get out and lead some laps? I don't really know. But even if let's say he goes out, his average laps led at Vegas are 9. His average lap led over the last 10 races at mile and a half is 1.4. So being generous for 10 laps led and 5 fast laps, and if he finishes in 5th, it's only 45.75. He's sitting kind of in the same boat as Ryan Blaney. Reddick's going to need to go out and get a top 3. No, he's going to need more than that. A win, if he leads the last 10 laps, is only 55.75 points. Reddick or Wallace? Where's Wallace? Wallace is starting up front too, and he's starting like in 4th. I'm looking. Yeah, he's starting in 4th. I think Bubba Wallace is actually running at these tracks better. I'm going to say Wallace, but we'll get to Wallace in just a minute or two. So like I said, even if Reddick can go from 7th to 1st, he's going to need to lead 20 laps. 10. It's usually 2 for 1, roughly. That would get him to 60. Like I said, they've had really good momentum so far this year. Things are heading in the right direction for them. It makes me nervous. So I'll probably have about the same ownership I have with Reddick, with Blaney, as I do Byron. So I don't think I put him in the camp of that 30-35% range. Where Chase Briscoe, I probably will try to get back on that horse and ride it. I think the luck needs to turn around for Chase Briscoe. He's too good of a driver. The 19 team is too good. And starting in 18th, I think there's some room for a place differential here. $9,200. Starting in 18th, his practice speeds were 14th and 14th. Not superb. His average finish is a 20.2, but you have to remember only 2 races from last year were with Joe Gibbs. The other 3 races were with SHR, and SHR was not good at these mile and a half tracks in the Fords. So he did finish 4th in this race last fall. Let's look at his practice speeds. He wasn't as fast as the rest of the Toyotas. He was faster from lap 10 to lap 16, then Bell and Hamlin, but he's starting in 18th. This is much more a place differential play than it is a dominator type of play. Looked good till he hit the wall today, and he still came back to finish in second. So, still looked really good. Did he finish second or third? Or did Briscoe finish second? So, yeah, still had a really good car today. Especially hitting the wall, go 1 or 2 laps down and come back to finish in second. Yeah, pretty good car today in the O'Reilly race. But starting in 18th, practice speeds were, they're fine. A little slow to start, but a little fast to lap 17, 18. All right, let's put him on the calculator. What is he going to need to get to? Start in 18th. And starting that far back, I don't plan on him leading any laps or very few laps. Could he get up there and do that? Sure. But I can't. When somebody starts in 18th or worse, I don't try to make a prediction that they could get out there and lead a bunch of laps. So I don't typically put it into the calculator. Can he still have 10 fast laps starting in 18th? Absolutely. That's not the big worry. It's how many spots of place differential does he need? Well, 18th to 6th gets him to 54.75. Probably not quite enough. Probably needs to get to at least 5th. Probably 4th. He finished 4th here in the fall last year. So, and at 9,200, this optimal line starts to not be as solid. I still think 60 is probably the spot for 9,200. But that puts him really, really close. And if he can do any better, if he can get to 3rd, he's definitely in there. So I don't mind taking some shots on Briscoe. Maybe he does go lead some laps. Maybe he does have some more fast laps. Yeah, I don't mind taking some shots with Briscoe. Probably somewhere in the 20-25% range. I'm not going to be as high as I am with Bell, Larson, Hamlin, but I won't be as low as Byron, Blaney, and Reddick. So he'll kind of be in that middle spot. Chase Elliott starting in 15th. His practice speeds were 30th and 18th. But for some reason, Chase Elliott sucks at practice, sucks at qualifying, and half the time he does okay in the races. The problem is he's got an average finish at Las Vegas of 21st. He finished 18th in the fall last year. In the last 5 races here, he has 1 top 10. Vegas is kind of like, I guess he and Blaney really are like brothers because they both don't have very good luck at Las Vegas. They are best friends. But either way, I just don't. Starting in 15th, it's kind of that weird spot. There's really not enough. And same with Briscoe starting in 18th, but at least there's 3 more spots there. 15th, it's like, he has to do so much for his price to get over that hill. It's tough. His practice speeds, other than his fire-off speed, where it was a little bit slow, was perfectly fine on the long run. That lap 15 to 23, right there with Hamlin and Bell. Sometimes even a little bit better. We're literally talking hundreds of seconds, but pretty darn close to the same speeds. But that doesn't mean you get up there and pass them. So starting 15th, if he gets to 8th, get the token 1 lap lead, 5 fast laps, it's 45 points. So how far up does Elliott need to get? He's going to need more than top 3. Top 3 with 10 fast laps, but his average is 3.4 and 13. So 10th would be generous, and that's 57.75. That's why I said it's kind of in a wonky spot for $9,000. Now, if you happen to have Bell, who scores 100 points, and Chase Elliott, who scores 57 points, and those are your 2 high-priced drivers, the average between the two is going to be perfectly fine. And then it's the other 4 drivers that will make up the rest of it. So it's not impossible to have a Chase Elliott that only scores 57 points. You would just literally have to pair him with an absolute dominator. So Joey Logano, $8,700, starting in 21st. Yeah, they screwed up practice bad. They waited to lap, I guess, 10, 12, something like that before they went out. The track got rubbered in, and it was just way too slick. The setup wasn't where it needed to be. It just wasn't super great. Now, that being said, Joey Logano is probably one of the best Fords at Las Vegas. He has an average finish of 8.6. Remember his partner in crime, Blaney, has at the same time an average finish of 22.8. So Joey Logano is absolutely way better at Las Vegas than Ryan Blaney, or the roll of dice is much better for Joey Logano. Either way, we look at trend lines. The trend line is much better for Joey Logano. And that's over the course of all of his career. 25 total starts, 4 wins. He leads all active drivers with 4 wins. 8 top 5s, 15 top 10s, 23 out of 25 times in the top 20. I mean, these are as good, if not the same, as Kyle Larson-esque. And he's starting in 21st. The problem is none of the Fords practiced well. He never made it better than average for the entire run. Even in lap 10. So if he went out lap 10, the trend line is not even the same. He's just slower. Now, will Ford and Penske and Logano make adjustments to get themselves better throughout the race? Yeah, but they are mired back in 21st with a 35th place practice speed. And none of like I said, none of the Fords looked all that good. The front row guys looked okay. Out of all the Fords, the front row guys looked okay. But that's about it. And I guess Penske was probably the worst, honestly. Because the RFK guys were middle of the road. Front row was actually probably the faster of the Fords. Starting in 21st, even if you get up to 10th, you don't lead a lap and you only have one fast lap, it's 45.7 points. So he's going to need to, I don't know if you lead very many laps starting in 21st, but let's say you have 8 fast laps, which would be generous because he averages 6 and 5. That's being actually very generous. And you get up to 7th. Still doesn't quite cut it. 5th. Doesn't quite cut it. 3rd. Does. 4th place. Barely. So, does Joey Logano make it to the top 4? Pretty tough. And like I said, the 60-point line starts to get a little bit less clear at 8,700. And still, he's gonna need to have a top 5 car. I mean, I think he'd probably get to 58.85, and if he's paired with the right driver, he'll make the optimal. But that you're asking for a lot of things to happen for that to happen. Ross Chastain, $8,500, is extremely good here. 3rd best average finish for current driver, or for the last 5 races. I think Joey Logano was 8.6. Yep. And Kyle Larson was like 6.4. Well, Ross Chastain is an 8.8 average finish. Pretty darn good. In fact, Trackhouse actually is really, really good at Vegas. Because remember, Suarez had 2 of the 4 times he was in the optimal and actually led quite a few laps while he was with Trackhouse. This would be his first go-round with Spire. So Trackhouse is actually really good here. So I wonder how that will translate for Zilich and SVG. Either way, Ross Chastain does race Vegas very, very well. At 8.8 average finish is with a 23rd last fall. Pretty impressive. Let's look at his practice speeds. Fired off a little better than average, not as good as the Toyotas. Got a little bit better than the Toyotas and then fell off the cliff. So that's a little concerning, that he only made it to about lap 15. That's concerning, actually. A lot concerning. Starting in 17th, kind of in that no man's land. I'm not saying somebody in 17th can't go and get a 5th place finish and not make it, but that's only 53.5 points. That's not going to be enough. An average of 3.6 fast laps, 8.6 fast laps, average of 5. 1 lap, token 1 lap led, 53.5 points. This whole teens thing is very, very tough to make it in the optimal. Let's go back and look at the optimals one more time. How many people started from the teens? Nobody. This was a whole complete mixed bag. But we also had no dominator. So maybe in the teens, if you don't think there's a dominator tomorrow, which, I mean, we have 5 cars that are all extremely fast. Maybe they all split up the laps led and fast laps. Maybe we don't see a true dominator tomorrow. There is that potential. But then over here, 1st, 10th, 9th, and then 23rd or worse. 2nd, 8th, and 18th, 20th, 30th, 34th. So it's, yeah, the teens don't seem to be super encouraging when it comes to trying to make them into the optimal. Not saying it's not possible, but it just makes it a little tougher. Chris Buescher starting in 10th. I mean, for RFK, started going to have a pretty good starting spot for Ford. Once again, the Ford practice speeds were just not good. 18th and 29th. That and Chris Buescher, this is not one of his better tracks. He's never finished in the top 5. In the last 5 races at Vegas, he's got 1 top 10, 4 top 20s. So he's pretty consistent with finishing 16th. And even over the course of 18 total starts, never finished in the top 5, twice in the top 10. Look at his practice speeds. It's all worse than average. So starting in 10th, I think he's just starting too far up. And like I said, the Fords just struggled, especially on the long run. I don't know what's causing the issue, but there's definitely an issue there. Starting in 10th, yeah, I mean, we already know. I mean, even in first, leading 10 laps with 5 fast laps, and that's being generous. He barely has 1 lap led. It only gets him to 58.75 points. I'm not even sure. I somewhere between 5 and 10% ownership, maybe, for Buescher. That's probably about it. Bubba Wallace, $8,200. Oh boy, what do you do with Bubba Wallace? $8,200 starting in 4th. Practice speeds were 4th and 8th. He was pretty good in practice. But God, I didn't know his averages were this bad. 22nd place average finish over the last 5 races. No top 10s, 2 times in the top 20. Finished 22nd in the fall race here last year. Practice speeds. All right, so Jim, I'll probably retorque my statement and say if I had to pick between Reddick and Wallace, I think I'd probably lean back on Reddick more than Wallace. It's not that his practice speeds were bad. They just weren't as good as the other Toyotas. And he's starting up in 4th. So it all depends on whether you think Bubba Wallace goes out and dominates. And there's no real indication that Vegas is a dominant type of track for Bubba or Reddick, but they would need that. But he's starting in 4th. That's just a really tough uphill battle. Now, he could also come out, fire off really quick, get the lead. We've watched him do it at places like Kansas, which is not that awfully different than Vegas, even though it is different. It's still a mile and a half. But it just makes it really tough. You know, he would have to lead 40 laps probably. Now, is that not? That's definitely doable. Like I said, We'll give him the 15 fast laps, gets him to 64.75. That's if he wins. Let's say he leads 40 laps, has 15 fast laps, but falls back to fifth. It's 54.75. Like I said, the optimal line changes at about 8,200, so 55. That's pretty close. So the amount of money that you could potentially save between a Bubba and a Tyler, I think it's a coin flip between the two of them, in my personal opinion. Probably going to be in the same boat with the amount that I run them. It's probably going to be like 15%. So I'm not going to go heavy on them. I'm not going to go light on them. One person I will probably go fairly light on is Carson Hocevar. $8,000. Starting in 19th. Chaos. Never really did a 10-lap consecutive run. He was 9th in single lap. He was just extremely loose in practice. The handling on the car was not very good, and almost wrecked it in qualifying. But if you look at his practice speeds, he did not have one lap that was better than average. Now he's starting back further than average, but I don't see anywhere where he gains ground. Now, will they make adjustments throughout the day? Could the track come into him? All those things are always possible. All the indicators are currently he has a 27.2 average finish for 5 starts. Not good, only one top 20, starting in 19th, and your practice speeds look like this. The data points don't show that this is a good play. Is it possible? Sure. Anything's possible. I could only go off of the data, and the data shows me that this is not a good play. That's why they call him the Hurricane. I call him Chaos. And I named him that a year ago. Carson Chaos Hocevar, and then the British guy on NBC decided to call him Hurricane. And because he's got more followers, he gets to make the nickname, I guess. But I'll always call him Chaos. Either way, Hurricane or Chaos, if it burns me, it burns me. Which is fine. Noah Gregson burned me last week. Big time. That was my sleeper call of the week. Now, it wasn't his fault. He was running decent. He did get a lap down early, and then his crew chiefs made bad calls all day long, and then the rotor blew up on him. So, but if Chaos gets from 19th to 7th, he's not going to lead that many laps. So give him the token 1, he does typically have some fast laps. We'll give him 5. Get the 7, gets him to 51.5. He's going to need to probably get to 5th to get to the 55-point mark. He's never finished better than 15th at Las Vegas. And for the 10 other mile-and-a-half tracks, 20 to 32nd. There's not a data point that I can find that says that Carson Hocevar makes it up to 5th. So I might have him in 3, maybe 2 to 3 times out of 80 lineups. And I think his ownership probably falls at about 7 or 8%. That's probably being nice. Kyle Busch, the Las Vegas native, $7,800 at his home track. Qualified 24th. Practice speeds were 12th and 10th. Okay, pretty decent. Average finish was 16.6 over the last 5 races. And he does have 1 win out of 29 total starts at his home track. An 11.9 average finish total. Practice speeds were actually not bad. Better than average for almost the entire run up until lap 24. Okay, starting at 24th, better than average. That's top 16 type of speed. Okay, I like all those indications. Average finish, what did I say? 14.5 starting at 24th. Okay, let's plug it in. 24th to 14th. It's not going to be enough, by the way. And we'll give him 4 fast laps. in the token 1 lap lead. 41.05 points. We're going to need a lot more than that from Kyle Busch to make it up there. 10th. Gets him to 50. 8th. Gets him real close. Add one more fast lap. That's pretty close. $7,800, 54.5 points would be enough, I think. I think Kyle Busch could easily get an 8th place finish. As long as he doesn't get spun or spin himself. So, but I like the Kyle Busch play. I'll have some ownership there, probably somewhere in the 15-20% range. Our winner from the spring race last year, surprise, $7,700. But he's driving a Penske Type Ford with the Wood brothers. And practice speeds were not that good. And other than his one win, he has one top 20 out of 5 starts. Last year was just a fluke. That's all I'm saying. Because beyond that, he's got an average finish of worse than 20th. And his practice speeds, I mean, he did get into the average and better than average for a little bit and then fell off, but his fire-off speed was not good. Actually, he seems to be better than Blaney and Joey. I mean, starting in 32nd, that's probably the one positive of it is there is a decent amount of place differential. But it's $7,700. This is a tough spot to be. 32nd. Finish 12th, but he's not going to lead. We'll give him the token 1, and we'll give him 3. So he's honestly going to need to be top 10, top 11 to make it in. I just don't know about the Fords. Like I said, I know they're going to make adjustments throughout the day. They will get better than what they practiced. The question is, at that point, yes, thanks, Jim. If you guys could hit the like button for us, that'd be great. I appreciate it. So yeah, I'll have some ownership in Josh Berry. I don't expect a whole lot from it. So probably in that 10 to 15% range, maybe 20%. No, I think it's probably closer to 15% where I'll probably end up falling. Ryan Preece, $7,500, starting in 8th. Practice speeds were 21st. RFK came up and showed up really well in qualifying, but look at his practice speeds. That's about, I mean, we're talking over a half a second off the pace from the field. And this is what, I mean, the Fords just looked like crud in practice. I don't know. It's starting in 8th. I mean, there's absolutely no room for error with this. I mean, I like the progress and the speed that Ryan Preece has had so far this year, but I mean, do we think he's going to go beat Larson, Bell, and Hamlin without them having an issue? I don't think so. So even if he moves from 8th to 4th, has 5 fast laps, it's 46.5 points. I just don't think it's enough. I'm a fade off of that too. Oh, Ty Gibbs. Starting in 3rd, $7,400. He was 13th and 5th. He was really good on the long run speed. Like, really, really good in long run speed. Is this the week? Is this the week to shut up all the haters? Or do they hate more? I don't know. Maybe both. But he's the yellow. Literally from lap 6 to lap 26. For 20 laps, he was the fastest driver in that range, starting in 3rd. Does he make a mistake? Does he screw it up? Does he actually finish this thing off? I don't know. I honestly don't know. He's cheap enough to run and starting in third, but it is risky, really risky. Because he's going to have to go win or get second, but then lead a ton of laps. So if he goes to second and he leads 40 laps and has 15 fast laps, that's enough. In fact, he could lead 40 laps, have 15 fast laps, and probably fall to fifth. Would probably still be enough. That's why I said his dollar total helps him a lot here. I will take some shots with Ty Gibbs. Will I be in the 30-35% range? No. Will I be in the 15 to 20% range? Probably. Probably closer to the 15% range. And I'm not sure how. I think you could still pair him up with. I think you could still pair most of the Gibbs guys together. In fact, I don't think that's a bad call. Even though it's first, second, third, and 19th. I know it's crazy and it goes against almost every thought process out there. But if the three guys starting up front lead at different times and they all continue to finish in the top five and Briscoe makes it to a top five, all four of them could easily make the optimal lineup because of the price tag that Ty Gibbs brings. And what does that look like? Try to run a lineup real quick. Nascar. Rome Horn. All right. You run a Bell, a Hamlin, a Briscoe, and a Gibbs. And you have $12,200 left over. So $6,100 left per. Run a Nemechek. That leaves you $6,200. You have a McDowell starting in 30th, an AJ starting in 29th, Zane starting in 12th, Gregson starting in 34th. If you go off of that, go with an Eric Jones starting in 14th. $5,700 left. Get you either Stenhouse, Todd Gillen, Noah Gregson. So you got a first, a second, a third, 18th, 14th, 34th. I don't know if I love pairing up a 14th and an 18th, but you could run, let's say, John Hunter starting in 26, along with $6,200 left. I mean, you can run a McDowell or an AJ. You run a McDowell, you max out, but you've got a first, second, third, 18th, 26th, and a 30th. Very possible to do that. So, yeah, I like Noah at Vegas also. I also liked Noah last week, and it burned me. So I'm feeling a little gun shy at this point with Noah, because other than me winning my bets, I did not do great at DraftKings because I went too hard on Noah. And actually, I told Family Man, I'm like, I'm too heavy on Noah. I know I am, and I still decided to ride the horse, and the horse bucked me off. So. Austin Cindric, $7,200, starting in 31st, has an average finish here of 20.6 with one top 10, one top 10, two top 20s. Finished 11th in this race last fall. It's his best finish, actually. Actually, he's got two top 10, so not quite. But practice speeds were, out of the Fords, it's actually not bad. Pretty much followed the average line, and he's starting in 31st. Do you think the Fords end up doing something? And do you think Cindric could potentially do something? I mean, His best finish here is 6th, worst finish of 34th over the last 5 races. Starting 31st, we've got room to run, and we've got price to give. So, maybe. I mean, the place differential is absolutely there. The question is the speed and the luck and just not either him or his pit crew biting him. Potential. I don't know. Not saying it can't happen. 5 fast laps, finished in 10th, 1 lap led, 57.5 points, well over the 50-point margin. Almost to the 60-point margin, to be perfectly honest. But so, how far back can he fall if he 15th? No, 13th. 14th. Kind of puts him under that line though. 13th place gets you to the 50.5. So 31st to 13th. It's risky, but I mean, kind of like with Josh Berry, I don't know if there's enough place differential here that it's almost hard not to take. Connor Zilic, $7,000, starting in 25th. Practice speeds were 31st to 19th. I mean, we don't have any data for Zilic. Xfinity, this was not one of his best tracks. It wasn't one of his worst tracks. It's kind of mediocre, and he was mediocre today. I mean, mediocre still finished top 5 or top 10. But his practice speeds actually were not bad. Started off a little slow, but then was faster than the field mostly from lap 9 to 18. Pretty consistent, actually. Didn't really fall off. Didn't budge a whole lot. Just, half-second fall off over 10 laps. Not bad. Starting in 25th at 7,000, he's going to need to get to at least 50 points for optimal. He's going to need a top 10. And that would be his first top 10 in the Cup Series, at least this year. I can't remember if he got a top 10 last year. I think he finished 11th in a race outside of road courses. That's a tough hill. That's a tough hill to climb. So, will I have a little bit of ownership? Yeah. It'll probably be like 10%. Brad Keselowski, 6,900, starting in 28th. At least one of the Fords is starting from the back that actually does decent here. 14.8 average finish over the last 5 races. 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s. But his practice speeds were just like all the rest of the Fords. They were just not even close to average. But at least he's starting a lot worse than average. So, Brad starting 28th. Get to 12th? Yeah. 14th? 15th? 16th? Did Brad Keselowski get to a 16th place finish or better? I think so. I'll have some ownership in Brad. I trust Brad a little bit more than I trust some of these other guys, especially with the high tire wear situation. Brad's really good at conserving his tires. So, yeah, I'll have some ownership of Brad, probably in that 15-20% range. Justin Allgaier, super fast for the majority of the race today in Xfinity. He's always done really, really well in Xfinity at Las Vegas. When he ran for Kyle Larson, a year and a half ago in the Coke 600, 1.5-mile style track. Very similar type of setup, running a Hendrick car, starting in 22nd. His practice speeds were 11th and 23rd. Pretty good for not running full-time in the Cup Series other than the occasional super speedway. And Justin's a really smart driver. He doesn't drive above his head. He drives within his means. And, his practice speeds were, compared to a lot of people, especially for somebody who doesn't do this very often, his practice speeds were really, really on point. So I will definitely take some ownership in Justin. I think some people probably fade off of Justin. But what does he need to get to to get to that 50 point. Probably going to be a top 10. Going to have to be better than a top 10. 5 fast laps. So actually, let's see if we get him to 10 fast laps, gets him to 50.75 with a 10th place finish or better. I'll take some shots with Justin. I don't mind that at all. Daniel Suarez, $6,600. Hey, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you hit me up in the comments if you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns. I'd really appreciate it. It helps out the algorithm. We got 16 people watching right now. I appreciate everybody tuning in on a Saturday night at 10:30, especially when there's ACC basketball finishing up, even though Duke's beating up on UVA. Two teams that I just do not like at all. Other than the ACC, other way. Oh well. So I'm a Virginia Tech fan, so I don't have much room to talk. My team was so bad that they decided to decline the NIT tournament. Don't get me started. Okay. Daniel Suarez, 6,600, starting in 13th. This is one of Daniel's better tracks. He has a 10.2 average finish. 10.2. And that was with Trackhouse. What's that mean for Spire? I don't really know, but he averages 10.2. Actually, I think, honestly, this might be his best track. But he switched cars, or switched teams. I don't know. That's the nerve-wracking part of this. And his practice speeds were just slightly better than average. And he's starting in 13th. I think he's starting in no man's land, to be perfectly honest. Andrew says he's cheap for a Hendrick car. I mean, yeah, but it's a Hendrick car that has not finished in the top 20 yet all season. I mean, that's the scary part about the 48, is it seems to be really, really snake bit. Hopefully Justin can turn that corner. Even with this being Daniel Suarez's best track, I don't see him beating Larson, Bell, Hamlin, Ty Gibbs straight up. I just don't see it. So that at best gives him a 5th place finish. If he has 10 fast laps, it gets him to 51.75. That's a really tough uphill climb. Possible. Boy, I just don't know. Daniel has a tendency to drive over his head. Does he calm it down a little bit and get a top 10 finish? And at 6,600, this probably might even get down to 45 points. So if he can get to his average finish, 41.75. What did I... Hold on. What did I have before? 8th? 5th. He had to get to 5th. That's a phenomenal day for him if he gets to 5th. His best is 2nd. Worst is 20th. Kind of falls right into that 10th place finish. It's only 41 points, though. Even if this line goes down to 45, I just don't know if it's enough. It could be really, really sneaky, though, if you pair it up correctly. This is absolutely a sneaky play if you can find the right pairing. Meaning, if you can run it with, a Larson, Hamlin, Suarez, not many people are going to have those 3 people in a lineup together. And if Suarez can get a 10th place finish or better, it might be enough, especially if like a Hamlin, a Larson, a Bell can go get 100 points. Then a 6,641 point day will get you there. You're just asking for a lot of things to happen correctly. Same thing with Eric Jones. 6,500 starting in 14th. 21.8 average finish. Only 2 top 20s, no top 10s in the last 5 races. All that with being Legacy and Toyota. But the speeds were really, really good. Better than average all the way across the board. Now, he is starting just slightly better than average, so it follows the line of logic there. But But starting in 14th, it's the same. We're sitting in the same boat with Eric Jones as we are with Daniel Suarez, where Daniel Suarez has a better average finish. So really tough. He's going to need to get to at least 5th place or better at 6,500. Maybe it's absolutely would have to be a pairing type of situation. Even though his practice speeds look really good, I don't know. I don't know if I'll have much ownership. It's absolutely super sneaky, but it has to hit almost perfectly. SVG 6,300 starting in 16th. Does SVG continue to finish in the top 11 in races? I think this might be a week that it's. I think people are going to potentially look at this and be like, "Oh, I might take some shots here." I don't know. I mean, he's racing the Trackhouse, and the Trackhouse cars. I mean, Suarez averaged a 10th place finish. I mean, is SVG better than Suarez on ovals? Maybe. I don't know. 6,300 starting in 16th. I mean, I think we're definitely getting closer and closer to that 45-point line. 16th to 9th gets you to 42 points. Gets you to 8. You're real close to 45, even though 50 probably would do it. But 6,300, I mean, it might work. I think all three of these picks could be sneaky. I think Suarez, Eric Jones, and SVG, all three potentially, they'll all be single-digit ownership. That point I definitely know. And I think they literally all run the same risk, same possibility, and all need to kind of score in the top 10. Don't need to go in, but they have to score at least in the top 10 with some fast laps. Or do people just naturally transition and just keep coming down to a Michael McDowell starting in 30th? The problem is practice speeds were 32nd, and he never did a 10-lap consecutive run. And a Chevy Spire car. And he's got an 18.8 average finish here. It's not great. It's not awful. Finished 16th last fall. But his practice speeds, he was never better than average. Now he's starting much worse than average, so he's got some room to run. 30th place to get to 50 points. 30th to 13th gets you 47.7. Is that enough? Maybe. I think 12th probably is more where he needs to get to. I think that might get him there. So Mike Waddell, 12th place finish. He has an average finish of 18th, 16th in the fall last year. Maybe. So, yeah, I don't mind running that. I think he probably ends up being a 10% to 10 to 12% ownership type of range. I'll probably fall into that range. I may even be just slightly overweight, like 15%. AJ Allmendinger, starting in 29th, he has an average finish of 16th. Do I think Michael Waddell's going to be highly owned? Like I just said, I think he's probably in that 10 to 15%. I think it probably something like 14. I think you could be even with the field on it. I think you could probably even go slightly over. But I think he kind of falls in that sweet spot. Because you also have an AJ Allmendinger, who actually, honestly, has a better average finish here of 16th. He finished 19th in the fall last year. I mean, we're talking almost the same thing. And honestly, practice speeds were... This wasn't good. The difference between you've got an AJ who has an average finish of 16th, but practice speeds look like this. Not great. Or Michael Waddell like this. So what's the difference between the two? Well, Spire actually has Chevy alliances where Colleague is out in the cold right now because they're going to Dodge. So they're not getting any simulation time. They're not getting any technical alliances with anybody. It's literally, hey, good luck. Honestly, I think that's why the practice speeds look like this. And we don't even have Ty Dillon to fall back on because he never even got through inspection in time to even go practice. He literally went out and just qualified, and qualified really bad. So he has no idea what he's even got. And his teammate looked like this. So, I mean, Mike McDowell's speeds aren't great, but at least they're kind of reasonable. That's being, I think, generous. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't really think either one are all that great. McDowell is one of the drivers you can count on to make smart adjustments. Yes, and he'll overperform. AJ will panic sometimes and have costly mistakes. Or Michael McDowell, a lot of times, is much more methodical. So if if you're asking me who I'm going to take more of, I'm probably going to be like 10% on AJ and 15% on McDowell. So not really a complete fade with either one. I'm just kind of splitting. I'm splitting the two with a slight edge to McDowell. John Hunter Nemechek, $6,000, starting 26th. He was 5th in single lap, 3rd in 10 lap. That's what I said. The Toyotas across the board, 2311, Gibbs, and Legacy, all fast. All fast. Now, lap 20 and on, John Hunter struggled a little bit. And he's starting in 26. I'll absolutely have probably more ownership than I should with John Hunter. And this could be my Noah Greggs from last week. I probably end up more heavier than I need to be. But a 26th to 10th gets you with only one fast lap and the token 1 lap led gets you to 50.7 points for $6,000. Absolutely would put you in the optimal if that happens. So, yep, I'll be all over that. Oh, look, family man, it's your boy Zane Smith, who I really, really like. And I would really like to be able to put him in some lineups. He's cheap enough that 12th he could potentially do it by almost finishing in 12th. And his practice speeds for the Fords, like I said, front row motorsports, actually for the Fords, were really good. I mean, these practice speeds are right there with the Toyotas, where the rest of the Ford camp was out to lunch. But starting in 12th, finish in 12th. What does that give us? 33 points. It's not enough, even with 4 fast laps. 10th gets you to 38. I mean, a 38-point day. Let's go back and look at these other optimal lineups real quick. 38th. 39.7 for 5,500, but a 52 and a 50 for those. So, it's just really tough. And it took a 26th to 9th, 35th to 14th, 34 to 19th, 28 to 13th. It's just that they're much bigger place differential plays. I just almost wonder if it's too tough to play Zane in that spot to get up there. He's going to need to get a 5th place finish. Would probably do it. Yeah, I think it definitely would. I think probably a 6th or 7th place finish or better would do it. I mean, the front row cars they are top. They're not Hendrick. They're not Penske. And I'm not sure Zane has earned a spot like that yet. I mean, the question is, what happens with Alex Bowman if Alex, for some reason, can't make it back into that car? He's in a contract year. He's been so injury prone. I don't mind Alex Bowman, but I just don't see Hendrick going for the long haul with that. Do they move a Justin Allgaier into that spot? Do they go with Quapple? Do they go really young with a Sammy Smith? I don't know. Or do they steal one from Richard Childress and go after Jesse Love? Because it also sounds like Jimmy Johnson and Legacy are absolutely going to have a third car next year, and Jimmy Johnson absolutely if Justin does well tomorrow, they might keep him. The problem is they would have to pay Justin Allgaier an obscene amount of money because Justin is absolutely perfectly happy running the number 7 car. He gets absolutely the best equipment, best everything at Junior Motorsports, and he doesn't have half of the hectic schedule that the Cup guys do. And he makes really good money. He always runs consistently in the top 10. He's like, I like where I'm at right now. I have a family life. I have all the things I want. I run on Saturdays. Maybe do a practice on a Friday and run on Saturday. I'm perfectly happy doing that. I don't have to go run Cup Series. I don't know if Haley even would take the 48 spot. I mean, if you put enough money into it, he probably would. But do you want a how old is Allgaier? Allgaier's what? 37, 30, 35, 36, 37 years old at this point. I don't think I've ever really looked. Justin Allgaier, 39 years old. I mean, he's within probably 3 to 5 years of full retirement. He's older than Kyle Busch is. So I don't see you going and putting Justin Allgaier in that car full time. You want to go and find I mean, you want to go off a real deep end, go and get a Sam Mayer. I mean, the kid's super fast. I'm going to scroll back, but thanks for being here every week. Lost Profit, you're absolutely welcome. Scroll back a little bit. We'll still be here. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe button. Next weekend's going to be wild. That's all I can say is Darlington looks like it's lining up to be absolutely wild. 750 package, super soft tire, low downforce. It's going to be wild next week. That's all I can say. And then the week after that, I'm going to Martinsville. So I'll explain the schedule next Saturday night. And yeah, we're starting to get down to it. Let's keep rolling here. Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't wait for Arlington. I'm excited for tomorrow too. We got a really good stretch, and then Martinsville. All right. So you could take some shots with Zane. He's cheap enough, but he's gonna have to finish top 8 or better, and that's a real stretch. And you're going to need a lot of the things to fall in right. Austin Dillon at 5,800 starting 11th. I'll take a Zane Smith all day long before I touch Austin Dillon. That's all I'm going to say. Practice speeds weren't even close comparatively. Not even close. Austin Dillon way outkicked his coverage here. We just did a 12th place guy. It's going to get even worse for an 11th place guy. Not even touching it. Zero ownership in Austin Dillon. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting in 23rd. I mean, about the same thing. I think you could take a couple of shots with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but his practice speeds they were fine till about lap 15, starting in 23rd. Yeah. What does it look like? 23rd, he's going to have to get to. Yeah, he's going to have an 11th place finish with one fast lap, one lap lead. That one lap lead that's a really, really nice token. 0. One fast lap, that's not hard to get sometimes. 44.5 points. I mean, that probably puts him there if he can get to 11th. I don't think he gets to 11th, though. Starting 23rd. I mean, that'd be a banger of a day for Ricky Stenhouse. And that's if he doesn't spin anybody out. Todd Gillen, $5,600 starting 27th. He was 27th and 22nd in practice, 26.4 average finish. I mean, his practice speeds were nowhere as close to being as good as Zane Smith's. They were kind of average, though. I mean, they were worse than average to start, but then he got into the average line by lap 20. Starting in 27th, I don't mind taking a couple of small shots on him. His average finishes aren't as good as Zane, so I, you know, at 5,600, he's going to have to get to. This is very similar to what we just did. 27th. Yeah, he's going to need to be finishing 12th. Maybe 13th. Possible, maybe. I don't know. I think it's about the same chance taking Zane as it is Todd. And Todd doesn't have to get nowhere near as good of a shot, but I don't think Todd's as good. So then we've got Noah Gragson from Las Vegas, $5,500, starting in 34th, has an average finish here of 17th. Oh, Noah Gregson's going to do this to me again this week. Practice 6th and 30th. Oh, long run speed, not that great, but fired out of the gate really good and pretty much ran the average till about 17th lap. Starting in 34th. God, does he do it again to me this week? Probably. I'm probably going to run 20%, 25% of Noah. I'm not going to be as heavy as I was last week. He was my third highest doing driver. And that really bit me in the butt. I mean, he gets to his average finish, and it's probably enough at 5,500. Yeah, he needs to get to 16th. He has an average finish of 17th over the last 5 starts here. So do what you will with it. I'm not going to call it as the long shot sleeper pick of the week, but he's sitting in a pretty good spot again this week. Ty Dillon, the problem is we have 0 practice laps. 0 anything other than 1 qualifying lap, which was dead slow. Duke beat Virginia for the ACC championship. Let's go back to back. Oh, that's right. You are the one that won last week. I do remember the name now. Congratulations on your big win. That's awesome. Glad you were able to hit the chrome horn. Absolutely. Go get another one this week. If you hit another one 2 weeks in a row, that means you've got to come and start doing the show, and I'll take a week off. You could cover me when I go to Martinsville. I'm kidding, but Ty Dillon, we have Zip 0 Zilch. He has an average finish of 27.3. AJ speeds did not look good. Yeah, we're starting dead last on the field, but he also was the one that destroyed William Byron this race last year. Riley Herbst, $5,200, starting in 20th, is from Las Vegas, has an average finish of 18th place here. Who would have known? The one track, I mean, I guess he has 2 wins in the Xfinity Series. 1 came at Las Vegas. Like I said, he is a hometown guy. His practice speeds actually weren't all that bad for Riley Herbst. But I am not taking Riley Herbst starting in 20th, even if he has an average finish of 18th. I'm just not going to do it. If it burns me, it burns me. Yeah, start in 20th, move it to 18th. It's 27 points. I'm not doing it. Cole Custer starting at 35th. I mean, average finish to 27th or 25th over 9 total starts because he did take some time off. And his practice speeds look like this. I don't have no interest in going here. So yeah, I'm gonna stay away from Cole Custer until they really start showing consistent speed week after week, which they're not. Davis, thanks for that. I appreciate it, and you're more than welcome. Let me know if you hit again. Good luck. Would love to hear back-to-back weeks, but I appreciate it. Cody Ware. He did 23 laps of practice again this week. Look at this. And he was 17th and 21st. Rick Ware Racing is actually trying to find speed. I talked about this last week. I'm talking about getting this week. I'm telling you, this Corey LaJoy would be very impressed and very happy by this. Cody Ware, in my opinion, is stacking pennies. Pennies being practice laps. Practice laps gives you more time to figure out what's wrong and good with your car before you get to the racetrack. Now, it's not equating into finishes yet, but finally, somebody, maybe Rick Ware watched my show one week and was like, oh, yeah, we probably should run some practice laps. Now, they're better than they were. Last year, Cody Ware was up here. You couldn't even find him on the chart. And I wasn't going to make the chart that big because it made the lines look really small. So I just left Cody Ware off, but he wasn't even on the chart. He's actually on the chart now. They're making small incremental moves in the right direction. I'm still not running him. He's starting in 30-30. He's going to finish probably at best 28th. That's not enough even at $5,000. So I'm not going to run him. But I called him out for not doing practices. So when somebody does something good, I'm going to call him out on the other side and say, good job. Keep it up. Keep doing that. One of these weeks on a normal track, not a drafting track, not a road course, none of that, at a mile and a half, like Kansas or something, all of a sudden Cody Ware is going to finish top 20. And it's going to be up because they were on speed, not because of attrition or anything else like that. I'm calling it now. Cody Ware will get a top 20 this year on a non-drafting style track without a ton of attrition. He'll do it on his own. Calling it right now. All right, who do I like? Pick any one of these. Well, in fact, take Byron out of it. I don't like the Byron call. Take a Larson, Hamlin, a Bell. And I'm going to put Ty Gibbs in that group also. Those are the 4 drivers that I think have the potential to dominate, win, and be in the optimal. 2 of those 4 definitely, or one of those 4 definitely will. 2 of those 4 potentially could be. You could put Bubba Wallace potentially in there. You could put potentially Byron Reddick in there also. Best place differential calls, Logano, definitely. God, I hate that. But Logano, Brad Kay, Barry, Busch, Noah, Zelich, Allgaier, John Hunter. Best long shot wild pick, Zane Smith. Yeah, those are my calls for the week. Either way, we are now creeping up on 2 hours. I'm going to keep this under 2 hours. I'm going to stop right now. Next week, whenever the Xfinity race is over, I think it might be a night race. Can't remember. See. Next week, 5:30 Darlington start. Probably means it might run all the way up until 9:30. So whenever that's done with, I'll probably be online. If it gets over early, then I'll be online at 9, or if it rains or something weird like that, then I don't know. Just keep an eye out for the channel. We'll just put it that way. Either way, I appreciate you tuning in. Next Saturday night, we'll go through Darlington, Wreckfest in Darlington. Yeah, potentially. I mean, heck, we could see it tomorrow too. If the tire wear thing becomes an issue. But either way, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure you like the subscribe button, and let me know if you end up taking home a bag. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Thanks. Have a great weekend. Good luck. Bye.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life.
Can you still pace the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job.
Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job.